What is up, guys, and welcome back to A Gap in Justice, your podcast for anything crime-related. Today, we are talking about
Robert William Fisher.
Robert William Fisher.
I love how you forgot already. I just told you.
Dude, you said it to me, and it absolutely went out the other ear immediately.
You guys couldn't see his eyes, looked at me.
I immediately peered directly towards her because, it literally was...
I'm done.
There was nothing there. There was a name, not even one of those names came up to my brain. So, Robert William Fisher.
Yes.
Now I won't forget it forever. Is the story we're talking about today. I know little to nothing about this. You said that he is still on the run.
Yes.
And I'm assuming, because of our podcast, he is a murderer. So.
Yes. I actually like coming in and not telling you a whole lot because I, like to get your reaction on things.
I also like it too. It's very honest and, I enjoy the story, so.
Yes. I've gotten some feedback on our podcast and some people are, talk about how, you and I together is a good combo, which, obviously we knew that already, but, I think that I like, you're good at giving a good reaction. So, I don't really show a whole lot of reaction. I've been around a lot of stuff like this, so things don't surprise me, but they still surprise you, and that I like that.
They do, yeah.
All right, yeah, today we're going to be talking about Robert William Fisher. He was born in 1961, so he would be 58 as of today. The crime was committed 18 years ago, so when he was 41. They say he allegedly did this murder, but, the police are pretty convinced that he did, in fact, do this murder. So the reason I really wanted to look at and talk about this story is because he's been a U.S. fugitive for 18 years. He has been on the FBI's most wanted list for 17 years. So I kind of want to look at and think, where did he go?
Yeah, that's a long time for someone not to spot you, especially with FBI's Most Wanted. Your face is pretty much everywhere, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think when you're on the FBI's Most Wanted list and they potentially think you've gone to a foreign country, you can be on Interpol. It's not just going to be contained within the U.S. So, if he went to a foreign country, he's definitely still going to be a fugitive there as well. So, it's not like you can leave and then you're...
free. Home free. Yeah,
potentially you'd have to avoid the police for 17, 18 years. So, I actually, as I was looking this up, I looked up, I'm always curious about, the backstory of stuff. So, where did, the FBI's Most Wanted list come from? So, I just want to talk a little bit about that before we talk about the case. So, this FBI's Most Wanted list has been in existence since 1950. The FBI director, J. Edgar Hoover, is the one who started it. And so, the first person ever put on it was Thomas Holden, and he was accused of murdering his wife, her brother, and her stepbrother. So,
wow.
I just kind of wanted to see, what's the success rate? I think this is one of those things we hear about it, we know, everybody knows that there's FBI's 10 Most Wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can think about some popular cases that have been on there, Osama bin Laden was number one, and Whitey Bulger and things like that. So,
so these are big name criminals.
Yes,
these are
people did some stuff and we want to find them immediately.
Yep.
So, since 1950, there has been 523 fugitives placed on the list. 488 have been apprehended. So that's about a 93% capture rate.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So if I was on there, I'd be a little bit nervous I'd be captured.
Yeah. This
is why I think, too, where did this guy go? That they have a 93 capture rate, and now he's missing. 31% of the capture rate is as a result of a citizen cooperation. 2 hours is the shortest time somebody was on the list. So in 1969, Billy Brandt was only on there for 2 hours before he was captured.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's rough.
And to be known for that, too, after.
Yes. Yeah, dude, you're the worst, most wanted person alive.
He's being made fun of in prison. The longest one on there was 32 years. It was Victor Garina. And then I also looked to that the oldest one ever put on there was 80 years old. So this was Eugene Palmer. He was added in May of 2019. He's not on there anymore, so obviously he's captured. But
Yeah.
you can put, 80-year-olds can be on there too. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're just putting someone on there. That's pretty much like the end all be all. Like, if you can't find someone, like you put them on there to get its name out as quickly as possible. That's how I always took it.
Yep,
So
absolutely. So Robert William Fisher is number 475 on the list. He is currently number 7. So there's obviously 10 at any given time. He's number 7 on the list right now. He has been on the list since June 29th of 2002. So this crime happened April 10th of 2001. So he was put on there about a year later. He is alleged of murdering his wife, his son, and his daughter.
we'll give you a visual
And then
of that.
blowing up their home.
And then blowing up their home.
Blowing up their home. Yeah, this is a big piece of it, too. So, yep. We see Robert here in this picture. That's his wife, Mary. Him and Mary were married for 14 years. And then it's Brittany and Robert Jr.
Wow.
So, this was the most recent picture, how the family looked and reflected and things like that. So, at the time of the murder, he was 41. So, he has actually been federally indicted for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, first-degree murder, 3 counts, and arson of an occupied structure. So, that's kind of what we're looking at for him.
That's extreme, yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to talk a little bit about what actually happened on the morning of April 10th, 2001. So, early morning, an explosion, rocked this neighborhood. So, this house bursted into flames, and when firefighters arrived at the scene, they found the bodies of 38-year-old Mary, 12-year-old Brittany, and 10-year-old Bobby. So, once they started to kind of comb through the house and things like that, and based on physical evidence, they started to kind of put some pieces together that Robert was ultimately the person who did this to them. So, the police suspect that the previous night, he waited for his family to go to sleep. I feel like I should give a disclaimer. Should I give a disclaimer? I'm just talking, but then I'm going to say some crazy stuff right now.
If you're listening to the podcast right now and you're weak in the stomach, probably don't listen to this because Lindsay generally doesn't get nervous about saying things.
I'm not reckless. I am reckless. I just don't. Okay, disclaimer. Okay, so he waited for his family to go to sleep. He then shot his wife in the back of the head. He slit her throat, and then he did the same thing to both of his children.
Wait, so he shot them both in the back of the head and then slit their throats?
Yeah, I mean, I think, people do they say people who are close to you tend to, overkill.
Oh, so, just in case you're alive. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
he then blows up the house, so, that's
that's
the
triple,
next point. But
that's a triple threat. Holy crap.
For example, I was listening to a podcast this morning, and it was a lady that was, beat pretty severely, and that's pretty much an indicator that somebody close to her did it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it tends to be overkill usually when it's intimate or it's people you know and things like that.
It makes sense, yeah.
So, after he killed his family, he then disconnected the family's furnace from the gas connection, and he lit a candle, so then this candle would then make the house explode the next morning. So basically detonating it, giving him hours to be able to escape. So I don't know how the police came up with that, but that's pretty snazzy. So yeah, they said basically I think they can tell obviously he disconnected the furnace and things like that. But yeah, he had this slow burning candle, and the candle, it made the house eventually, the entire house filled up with gas, and then it exploded in the morning.
I can only imagine the noise that made.
Oh gosh, yeah. And actually, there's some other pictures down the road that we'll see on the slideshow, but they actually show pictures of the house, and the house is pretty pretty gutted. They also realized that gasoline was placed in the bedrooms to ensure that the crime scenes would be destroyed. So, I mean, obviously there's indicators that they can start to realize, like, you know, he's the one who did it. You know, obviously he hasn't been, you know, charged. He hasn't been
apprehended at all. Yeah.
But, you know, that's obviously why it's alleged. But obviously the police are like, this is who did it. Like, if your entire family and your home is, you know, your entire family is killed and your home exploded and you don't come forward and it's like, oh my God. I mean,
yeah,
it's obviously you. So, you know, this is why I wanted to talk about this case. Like, this is why I think this is a gap in justice case, because I find it a little bit nerve-wracking to know that we have this fugitive on the run for 18 years and that we have yet to catch him, like, even with technology nowadays. And that makes me nervous. Like, why haven't we caught this guy?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You know, he did this brutal crime. He has not been seen since. So I think actually the order of pictures, so if you want to slide to the next one. Yes, it's exactly what I want it to be. So this is actually the last sighting of him. So if you note the date, this was the night before. So they're estimating that the night before he went to the ATM, he took out $280. That car behind him is his wife's 4Runner. That comes into play a little bit later as well. But, you know, if you see the clock on the bottom, it says 10:42. So he went and got this money. And then the police are alleging that he went to his home, killed his family, did the furnace, jumped back in the car with the dog. He didn't murder the dog. He brought the dog with. Blue. The dog Blue. And so he then fled. And so before the crime scene was discovered, they're estimating he had about a 12-hour lead on the police. So,
okay.
Yeah, so he had about a 12-hour lead. Scottsdale is 4 or 5 hours from the Mexico border. So I thought I would just throw that in there as well. Obviously, it's pretty close to the Mexico border. So giving him plenty of time if that's where he was going. Okay. So investigators started to kind of dig in on him. You know, they're like, obviously the dad's missing. What's going on? On the surface, he appeared to be like a loving father, a good husband. But when they start to kind of really look at things, they start to realize like his relationship with Mary was difficult from the start. So Mary claimed he was controlling, he was bossy, he was authoritative, he would tell her what to do. They argued all the time, and it often was yelling and screaming in the home, both at each other and at the kids as well.
Wow.
The marriage was in question numerous times. They would talk about divorce all the time. And then he actually confessed to having an affair and then having an STD as a result of the affair. So they very much were talking about divorce then. Mary ended up kicking him out, and then he ended up like going hunting and like going to his favorite hunting ground. And then a few days later he came back and they agreed to do counseling in the church. So this was kind of their pattern, you know, is that they would like explode, talk about divorce, he'd go cool off, and then they'd get back together.
Okay.
The other thing the police talk about too a lot with this guy is that he is an avid outdoorsman, hunter, fisherman. And so this is what I find interesting, is that the police are kind of implying like this guy's been living off the land for 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
Which I think is humorous.
That seems insane with how, I mean, I shouldn't say it seems insane, but like...
It seems insane.
Yeah, like that's...
He's really living off the land for 17 years. Nobody spotted him.
Yeah, not in today's society with there's no land to be living on.
Like, is he some weird mountain man that's like unrecognizable or something? What?
Yeah, I mean, he's in this picture that you guys see in front of you if you're watching it on YouTube. He's completely clean shaven, like... And, I mean, if you grow out a beard, you grow out... He doesn't have any hair hardly in this thing. He could...
They just make it... Like, the police make it so big. Like, every single article I read was like, he's an avid, an avid outdoorsman. And so, and I'm like, what? Okay. I mean, I get it. Maybe for a little bit. Like, if this guy was missing for a few months, cool. He's been missing for 17 years. This right here is the last sighting.
Yeah, like, where is he living where there's no people seeing you?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of.
And you don't need any supplies, or there's not something weird or suspicious going on.
That's the scary thing, though. In today's society, though, you don't need to... You can literally order everything offline, but then you'd have to get a fake identity. You'd have to do all this stuff. So there's
so many...
Where would you
get a phone? I mean, there's so many things that, like, I feel like in today's day and age, there's no way we wouldn't have
seen
him by now. At least a sighting. I even, like, looked into, like, false sightings, and I kept being directed back to this photo. Like, he has not been found. Nobody has seen this guy. He's kind of a normal looking dude, so that might play into it.
Yeah.
I don't think he has, like, major distinguishing features. I know one feature they talked about is that he has a noticeable gold crown on his upper left bicuspid tooth. He also walks with, like, an exaggerated posture because he has, like, a lower back injury. But I mean,
you pop that tooth out, you're on the run.
Yeah,
I'm popping that thing. I'm having a missing spot for sure. Like,
well, especially because they make it such a big deal too. That, chances are you're probably getting rid of that.
The craziest thing is you can think about it in the mind of he could look himself up and see what they think, and change appearance
drastically.
Yes, that's scary.
We're going to look at age progression photos that I can't help but make fun of when we get to the point, because I feel like the age progression photos look so silly that I mean, he could have gained 200 pounds, you know?
You never
know. He would look drastically different. So, prior to the murder, Mary was talking to friends about wanting to divorce Robert. Like, she was done. There was this ongoing cycle, and then he had this affair, and so actually the night before, this night right here, neighbors heard arguing. So there was arguing. Police think that Robert's motive for this crime is this imminent divorce. He just did not want to go through it. He didn't want to put his kids through it. He is a child of divorce, so he knows what it's like when his own parents divorced.
Yeah.
So the police just kind of suspected, like, we really just don't. He didn't think he wanted. I mean, it sounds so odd to me. Like, hey, I don't want you to go through divorce because I went through divorce, so I'm going to murder you.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
So, I mean, a lot of the time, obviously he wasn't thinking right. The thing is, like, that you were talking about, he literally shot him in the back of the head and then slit their throats. In my mind, that's him saying, I don't want them to suffer anymore.
You think?
Does that make sense? Because like that's like my first thing was like, okay, I don't want them to suffer anymore. Let's make sure they're not suffering. Because if you slit their throat, they aren't dead right away. Obviously, he's shooting them in the back of the head, slitting their throats after. That's what they assumed what happened.
I mean, people can. I mean, we talked about Joseph last week. He survived shooting himself in the head. I mean, I guess you could survive that too. Maybe that's why he did both. But I mean, that's pretty extreme type behavior. So, okay, so the police obviously honed in on him very quickly, understandably so. A few days after the murder, authorities thought that they had him cornered in a small cave. So they, there's a lot of, like, articles about how he was that forerunner, which was his wife.
His wife's car, yeah.
Yep. Was spotted at, let me find the name of the park real quick. It was spotted at Tonto National Forest in Arizona. Okay. So it was spotted there. The police were doing, like, massive searches and stuff for him. We'll see some pictures down the road where you see, like, SWAT and, people with armed rifles and things like that. So they were doing some pretty extensive searches for this guy. And they spot the forerunner and they spot the dog Blue. So they were under the impression that he was in a cave. Okay, so again, he's an avid fisherman. They make that a super big deal. They're assuming that he's, like, in this cave hanging out, I guess. They end up not finding him. You know, they rescue the dog. They take the 4Runner.
How long after the murder was this?
It says a few days.
Okay, so it's just a few days. Okay.
Yeah. You know, somebody spots the vehicle at this Tonto National Forest. They also see a dog. Like, the dog's just randomly there. And the police are now thinking, like, this was actually made to be a decoy to help him escape. Like, I'm going to plant this vehicle. I'm going to leave the dog here. I guess there was, like, a sewer camera that captured some video, and he wasn't on it at all. So, like, there was a sewer camera positioned in that area, and he didn't go the way they assumed he went, like, towards the cave.
Oh, okay.
He went, like, the other way. So that led them to believe, like, he just planted this vehicle in the dog
just to get out of there.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Again, he has a 12-hour, if not more, lead on them.
Yeah, you can get you can get halfway across the United States in 12 hours. Like...
I'm like, but did you feed the dog before? Like, this is so sad. Like, human stuff doesn't bother me. Like, I'm like, whatever. But I'm like, God, did you feed the dog? How long was the dog out there?
I'm sure the dog was fine. Yeah, the dog, literally animals don't eat as much as humans do. Like 12, it could have been.
You know what?
It could have been like 12 hours.
It was okay. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Oh my God.
So maybe one of the reasons that Robert has not been able to be found is the first speculation. So the first speculation is that some people think he went out to this national forest and committed suicide. So apparently in the past, when Mary has kicked him out in the past, he's told people, like, he's going to go in the woods and kill himself. They suspected that he went to the woods and, but I get... Why didn't they find a body then?
Yeah, you're killing yourself. How are you getting rid of your own body?
Well, I mean, that doesn't mean he's doing it in Arizona. He could literally have been in a different state. But again, this is like a national case. And then even if there's John Doe's, like, I would imagine at some point they would have found. So I don't know. The police do not think this, though. Like, some friends thought that maybe he committed suicide. Like, he had made reference to that before. But the police are like, no, absolutely not. The police believe that he's alive and he has created this whole identity for himself. And so because of that, that's why, like, he's been indicted on all these charges. He's on the FBI's most wanted list. Like, the police are like, absolutely not. He didn't do that.
If you're committing suicide, wouldn't you leave your body in the house?
Yeah, why not blow up with your family?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I'm killing my family and then committing suicide, my first thought would be killing my family, killing myself in the house, while the furnace took how long to go off, you know what I mean? It's fine. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think that this case has been around for a long time and that people think they know stuff. So people start to speculate. And, I think people try to put pieces together, So they're like, well, obviously this guy hasn't been found because he killed himself. But just like you said, it was concluded pretty quickly, like, if you're going to kill yourself, why wouldn't you just do it? I mean, maybe he was overridden with grief later and realized, like, wow, I killed my entire family. I need to go do that to myself as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, given their history between Mary and him, and, like, the fact that he took the dog and, like, what he did to the family, I mean, it could show, like, lack of empathy, and I don't necessarily think he committed suicide. I feel like there would be some evidence of that, or we would have found some evidence of that. So
for sure.
I tend to lean a little bit more towards he created this new identity. But then I struggle with that, though, too, because where did it go? If he created a new identity, where did he go?
Yeah, without anyone seeing you if you're on the most wanted list. Like, that's insane.
So, have you seen the most recent Fast and the Furious, where they have that, like, God's Eye or whatever it's called?
I have not.
Okay. So, this is what I envision when we think of this. So, there's, like, this computer program called God's Eye, and, like, you could put in your face, and they're gonna find you wherever
you are. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have no idea if there's real technology out there like that. But that's what I just assume. Like, we have technology. Our government has technology like this. And we can find people like that. And, I mean, I don't think it's that extreme. But clearly wouldn't you think now we'd be able to find people a little bit better?
I mean, for sure. There's been cases saying that the government takes different information from people and different things. Like, there's definitely not... That's why it's strange that he hasn't been captured to me. When I heard that he hasn't been captured
it is
for that
strange.
long, it's kind of chilling, because you think about someone like this, like you said before, they would go to church for counseling. Mm-hmm. What if he still goes to church?
Yeah.
What if he does? You know what I mean? Like, that's...
Well, and we talked a little bit, too, about, like, I know they talk about him being, like, this outdoorsman, and that, so some people, like, ponder, okay, obviously he's just living off the land. Do you know what it's like in Arizona right now? It's like 106 in Arizona at this time of year.
Yeah.
There is no way you're surviving out there. And believe me, I'm sure there's somebody who's like, yes, you can. Okay, not for 17 years. Yeah. There's just no way.
Well, then I'm thinking about, is he a cabin in the woods guy where he's taking people? Is he murdering more people that we don't know about? You know what I mean? Like, is he
just constantly moving around?
Yeah, there's so many spectrums of someone who you can't find.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I just think the whole living off the land thing, though, seems to be a little extreme.
Oh, for sure. I can definitely see where you're coming from with that, for sure.
There's a lot of controversy, too, about, is this premeditated or was this just random? What do you think?
I feel like if you're shooting them in the back of the head, you're slitting their throats and you're lighting the fire, and you know that you can, like, light a candle in the furnace. But I mean, I'm not the manliest man, but does every man does every man know that if you undo the furnace and you do like you know what I mean? And it's not like in 2001 I wasn't like,
we don't know what on his phone search. Maybe he Googled that.
In 2001 you were Googling stuff. That was
2001? Yeah, the internet came out in the 90s. What are you talking about? I forgot you're young. Anyways, yes, in 2001, you are Googling stuff.
Dude, that isn't coming up on Google. You're getting an encyclopedia out, for sure.
Okay, he was on his home computer that was a big box, Googling random stuff. Why do you think he torched the house?
You think he's waiting for dial-up for that?
Yes.
Then it's
premeditated.
Oh,
yes,
man.
He's waiting for a dial-up.
That's crazy.
And hopefully nobody called her. It was interrupted.
I'm gonna switch slides. So, is this the cave?
Yeah. So this is actually one of like the sheriff's deputies. This is when they were in like that Tonto National Forest,
okay.
And they assumed he was in this cave. So obviously that never came to light, and there was nothing going on with that. I don't know. I mean, maybe he was there and he heard them coming. I doubt they were quiet, Yeah. So I don't know. I mean,
well, he said there was a camera of some sort, and he wasn't on it.
I really think, like, I don't know. I read a lot of stuff like, was this premeditated or was this just random? And the more I read, the more like I thought it had to have been premeditated. Now, premeditated can be a day before.
Yeah.
I don't think it just happened. And, like, this actually makes me think why it was premeditated, because I think the dog and the forerunner was planted. So that makes me think that it was premeditated, that he had time to think about that. Like, sure, he had time to think about what to do with the dog in the car on the way, but I think he kind of set this stuff up ahead of time, and that helped him to get away swifter.
Oh, for sure. Especially premeditated, for sure, especially with their family sleeping. I don't think anybody like there's not really any confrontation to set you off to murder someone at that point. Like,
yeah, but you also, I mean, technically, how do we know they were sleeping?
I'm assuming
they say that, like, the police think that the family was sleeping, but like, if the house was burnt, like, sure, they found the bodies and maybe the bodies were laying in their bed, but that doesn't mean that they were sleeping at the time. Maybe he just put them in their beds. I don't know.
I mean, but sometimes you can, like, people who study this stuff, like the coroners and all these people, or the people who do, they're so good at their jobs. I feel like they could probably just by the position of them they probably tell or something, like something insane. Just like, I mean, there's got to be a reason why they said they were sleeping. They had to have been confident saying that, right?
I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So I just, so this is the cave. I don't know how big the forest is. I didn't like look to see how big the forest was, but I'm sure it's pretty expansive.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
how many caves are we trying to
You said it's a national park, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So it's huge for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. So, if we want to move on to the next photo.
Yup.
So,
Wow.
3 weeks after the explosion, they ended up demolishing the house, which I think is cool because there's some cases that, like, this vacant building will stand years and years and years and years, and, like, could you imagine living in the neighborhood and having to see this house?
Or being a family member or a friend of the people?
Knowing what horrific stuff happened there. So, yeah, like, within 3 weeks, they actually demolished the house and got rid of the house. You know what? Now that I'm looking at this picture, why does that look like Robert William Fisher in the thing right now?
Yo, he's doing it? He's demolishing it? Oh, my gosh. He got a job as a construction worker in the city.
He's, like, totally out there just doing it.
I'm so
reckless.
On a tangent a little bit. Do you remember years ago there was a case in our city that burned down the house by like mom's old house and like grandma's house. Yeah, it was like a murder case.
Oh yeah,
remember that?
Yeah, a couple.
Yes, I remember looking
he killed his girlfriend.
Yes, I remember I would drive past that house and it was like getting fixed up, and I'd always think, because I remember reading the story, you would like always look at it. So I can totally relate to like I don't even know that person, but I would look every time and feel bad about it.
No,
like,
and now that you said that too, yeah, like the house was like burned for a while.
Knew,
like, this horrible. Well, and there was like crime scene tape up for a long time too, but you could tell too, like. You drive by and have this oversensing or like overwhelming sense of like, oh,
yeah, that's crazy.
A girl was killed there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Burnt there. I just, it hurts me a little to think about like one murdering your family and then burning them, and I just get really like, wow, these are human beings. Like, why do you do stuff like this? But I just part of me wants to kind of look at though. I have no idea what happened to the guy, but part of me thinks, like, maybe he's not around anymore, because it just seems really odd to me that he's still missing, I don't know how long he would then potentially be on, I don't think they take you off of the list until they find you. Yeah.
So how, I don't know if you know this, but if the list, how does the list work? Like, if they really want you, will they, like, jump you up the list and stuff?
Yeah, it goes in order. So, like, number 1 is obviously the one they want to capture the most. It's going to give you, like, the highest reward. He does have a $100,000 reward leading to capture and then, obviously, conviction. But, yeah, so if you're higher on the list, you're likely going to have a higher reward. So, yeah, he's number 7. He's not, like, the most important, but he's not the least important either.
He made the list.
He's on the list.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, like, local law enforcement can, increase and recommend to the FBI, like, hey, we really need to put this person on the list.
So will they never take him off until they find him, you think?
I don't think they take people off. I didn't look, but I'm almost positive that they don't take you off. Like, you just kind of remain on there,
Until you're like, they're like, oh, well, he's probably 90 years old now.
That's what I figured. Yeah, like, maybe they'll take him off when they realize, like, he is alive.
He's too old now.
Well, maybe he's dead. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah. I don't know how that works. Maybe I'll look a little bit more into it. But, yeah, part of me just, I guess, is so confused about, this brings me back to Alexis's case. Like, it's a kid and she went missing, and, like, where did she go? And this is what I think about with this guy. Where did he go?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's a little bit harder. Like, with Alexis's case, it hurt me to say, like, I don't think she's around anymore, and her body is somewhere. Yeah. With him, I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
I really don't. Like, and there's so many pieces that, like, the fact that he hasn't been photographed since the night before is insane to me.
I scoured the internet looking for like false sightings or something related. Like, you'd think somebody would have been like, we've seen this guy. There was literally nothing. Like, wow. Where did this guy go?
Yeah, that's insane.
You know, there's, you know, people go missing every day, but it's one thing to go missing, like, under mysterious circumstances. It's another thing to go missing, like, to make yourself go missing.
Exactly, yeah.
And that makes me think it's premeditated. Again, because if he was going to go missing, and if, let's say, potentially he is still alive and hiding, he had to set this up in advance.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I think there's some major planning that goes into that. You know, being able to, like, create a new identity, which the police think. They think he created a new identity, and he's alive and well, and, you know, off living his life. So I would assume in a different country. There's no way he could still be in the United States.
Yeah.
There's just...
Well, you said they're like 5 hours away from the Mexico border, you said?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm in Arizona and I premeditate some stuff, I'm probably going to head to Mexico.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Pretty easy to get in. I mean, you're not going to go to Canada. You'd have to go halfway across the country. And it can be pretty hard. I think by the time you got to Canada, there could be a good, you know, there's possibility that his information was already out there.
Yeah.
You know. So I definitely wouldn't go that way. And, you know, obviously we are looking at early 2001. So there was not any of the, like, super airport security at that time. Obviously, like there is now. 9/11 didn't happen until months after this crime.
Ironically, today is 9/11.
It is 9/11.
That's crazy.
But I just think that... So technically, I mean, he could have gotten on an airplane and there could be no reference of him getting on an airplane. You know, he could have went under a fake identity and went to, I don't know.
Oh, for sure,
what country has no extradition. I don't know. But yeah, so I just... Part of me is just, like, wonders, where do people go missing? And if he's so high in the United States to meet the level of being on the FBI's most wanted list, and he's still missing, I just have so many questions. Like, why? Where? Who? Did he have assistance? You know, is he really still out there? And if he's not out there, what happened to him?
Yeah.
You know, and I get pretty sad about, like, where's the justice for the family? You know, you'd have to think after 18 years, it's likely not to come.
Yeah.
I will say on the flip side, though, people have been found on the FBI's most wanted list years and years and years later.
Yeah. You said 30-some years later for the one guy. That's crazy.
Yep. So, I mean, there is a possibility there can always be justice for this family. There is a possibility he can be found, you know?
Yeah. You've heard of stories about, like, people going to, like, Ancestry.com now?
Yeah.
And getting, like, cops...
That's so funny that you brought that up. Yeah, there's been some major cases that have been
solved because of Ancestry.com and stuff. Yeah, because I was just reading stuff about that. That's crazy. So.
Yes, there's a main one out of California. That's probably one of the ones you're talking about, D'Angelo. He was the... I mean, he had a lot of different names, but... he, like, raped women, you know, and he ended up murdering people, too. And sadly, like, the statute of limitation for the rapes is passed, but because he murdered people, they're going to try to get him on that. And he was an Ancestry.com. Like, it was, like, a cousin or something. Yep. And then, you know, I start to think, like, if you did crime back in the day... You're probably getting a little bit worried right now that your family is on Ancestry.com.
Oh,
doing something, you know,
for
because
sure,
they are doing this unique DNA and they're able to, so I mean, I think the sad thing though too, I don't know if he has if Robert has siblings or things like that, but obviously he eliminated his entire family. It's not like they could get DNA from them. Yeah. But I'm sure he has some living relative that would be able to kind of connect him and identify him.
You have to. I'm going to switch to the next slide here. What are we looking at, Linz?
So this is they did a major manhunt. So when I say they did a manhunt, like they did a manhunt, like they were like, this guy's armed and dangerous. He's an avid hunter. He has guns. He has air rifles. He has, you know, and so they definitely were like looking for him. You know, obviously one of the things was they're looking for him in the national forest, but you know, as you see, this is like more of a like side road and stuff, and they were looking for him. They did like a manhunt for him. And then I think they looked for him potentially for like a good year. I mean, not every day like this, obviously, but
yeah.
And then they ended up putting him on the FBI's most wanted list, which typically makes people apprehended pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You know, obviously not in this case, but I don't know, that makes me lead to think like maybe he isn't alive anymore, because I just don't know how somebody could literally be gone that long. You know, if he was technically in the national forest, let's say he went the other way and the camera didn't catch him. I mean, there's a lot of different things that could happen to him. Elements could happen to him. Animals can happen to him. You know, I've heard tons of stories of like, you know, people disappearing in woods, and then like people talking about technically an animal could like eat you and your bone, and like you never technically be found. So
what kind of animals eating bones, dude?
Well,
what kind of animals eating everything? We're not in the freaking.
Bears,
we're not in Africa,
bears
dude.
Are,
like, we're not like getting hunted down by lions or anything. So
bears are a good example. Mountain lions can be pretty vicious. I mean, there's definitely some interesting animals that could. I mean, bears will like take you back to their like,
dens. Yeah, I know about that. Yeah.
Keep you and you know like eat on you for like weeks to come. So you know, there's definitely some different things that could have happened. I don't know. I go so back and forth. Like part of me, the biggest part of me says like, there's no way he's still alive.
Yeah.
There's just no way. Like, I don't know what he did. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he met foul play. I just find it a little bit coincidental, though. Like, he does this entire scheme, but then meets foul play. That seems like a pretty bad... Like, that seems like pretty bad luck.
Yeah.
So, maybe he did commit suicide, and he's somewhere out in Arizona, or he's in the Bahamas. I don't know.
Here's another thought. What if they found out that the mistress and him did it together and they ran off? Because you said there was a mistress, right? So
yeah, I don't know if he was still with her at the time, but yeah, there was a mistress.
Wow, there's so many different things.
Super looked into her though. I'm sure she was like her life was completely turned upside down.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think if there was any indicators about her being involved, it would have definitely been
come up. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. If we look at the next slide. This is actually like part of the house. So if you're looking like that's like the frame and the structure, which that's just crazy, you know, to look at like you can see like brick and stuff in the background too. Like that house exploded.
Yeah, for the people not
it exploded.
If you're not watching on YouTube and you're just listening to it,
there's
literally nothing. There is just the frame of the house with nothing else on it, people. Like
there's a pile of bricks in the front.
Yeah, that's it.
You can tell, like, things exploded and then just fell. And, you know, it's definitely... It was huge. You know, it was a big deal. I'm sure it rocked that entire
neighborhood. I think we have another picture of... No, we don't. Okay.
We do, I think.
Do we?
Is it
the next one? No.
Nope. Oh, you forgot it.
All right,
there was another picture.
Yeah, of the house, I thought.
Yeah, the house. It kind of showed... So, I mean... This was like the worst of the damage if you look at it. You know, I mean, if there's another picture, you can probably just Google it, but you know, so the house is still technically standing, you know, in the one picture, and then you see like a banner that says like "We miss you, Mary and Brittany and Bobby." But yeah, the house exploded. Like, it was pretty horrific.
All right, well, now that you guys have seen this picture, let's skip right to this, because I saw it when I was uploading these, and I was dying laughing.
This is what I found hilarious. And I really shouldn't laugh because it's not funny, but, like, really, guys, these are his age progression photos.
Damn.
So, 15 years after the murder, so in 2016, 3 years ago, the FBI decided to do age progression pictures. So they were like, you know, obviously he's been on the run for quite a while. We better do some age progression. Why did they not change his face at all? I guess he has no wrinkles.
They literally gave him a mullet in some of them. That's it. They gave him a mullet and a mustache. That's it. Yeah.
Well, there's a beard. See, there's a little bit more of a beard.
Yeah, but I mean, he's literally, they didn't do much
And then he's
at all.
bald. Why does he have facial hair in every single one?
That's, they just assume he doesn't shave anymore.
You know what? This is the thing. These age progression photos are horrible.
Oh, these are the worst ones I think I've seen.
Like,
and he's on the FBI's most wanted list. These should have top-notch age progression people on them. So
these are not good at all.
That's crazy.
Bad.
This is pathetic, honestly.
So I almost feel like if he's alive, he's probably like, "Ha,
they'll never find me."
Yeah. So yeah, the FBI decided 15 years later, we should probably do age progression, which is that's common, that's normal. Who
has a mullet in 2016?
Bro.
That's
I think more people than you think.
Oh God. Like the video if you have a mullet for sure. I'm sure we'll get at least one like.
I think more people have a mullet than you realize. Yeah, I had a mullet in the 80s, so maybe somebody...
First of all, that was Mom's fault. Mom just didn't know how to...
Yes, I agree. It was not my fault. It was not by choice.
Those pictures are hilarious.
Maybe somebody who was stuck in the 80s or, born in the 80s or really enjoyed the 80s did these age progression photos, and, that's kind of what they identified with, so... they're bad. They are bad. I wanted them to be included just to kind of demonstrate how bad they were.
Yeah.
But I think even then, he's just, it's funny now that I, look at it again. Because I was just going to say, I think he looks kind of normal. He kind of looks like our uncle.
You think so?
A little bit.
When
you look, but that's what I'm saying is that he just looks like
he's a generic white male.
Yes.
Yes, I would say yes. I would say generic white male for sure.
So whether you have him bald or throw on a beard or have him look exactly the same, he
looks the same in every picture. He really does.
It's horrible. But I think the point is he could just blend in.
Yeah.
If he wanted to.
Yeah, so this is crazy. I'm really going to think about this now.
Yeah.
That's the thing about, I really love doing these because some of these stories are really gut-wrenching. Mm-hmm. And this one's gut-wrenching in a different way. Knowing that this person could just be living a normal life.
Yeah.
And because it's really
what if he has a family, a wife and kids and, he would be 58 years old today. So he committed the crime at 41. He would be 58 now. But he could just be working a job and living a life and have a wife and have no idea,
and the thing is,
who he actually is and what's going on.
Some people age so progressively. You know what I mean? Some people look older in, 2 years sometimes.
Sure.
So, 17 to 18 years, that's a long time to be out and about, and living your life and knowing that if you know this, that you're getting looked for, obviously, you can alter it completely different than what they think.
You better.
So it's, oh man, that's crazy.
I think the other thing, though, too, is that I wonder about, they actually say, the longer you're on the run, the more careless you are, because at some point you're probably going to get a little bit comfortable.
Yeah.
So, if he is comfortable living his life, where's the carelessness? When did he get careless with this whole thing? And I don't know. He could potentially have adopted a different identity and literally has just lived by that.
Oh, he had to have. If he's alive, which I'm 50-50 right now.
I know.
Maybe not even. I feel he's got to be in Mexico with another name. He literally has never said Robert William Fisher again in his life.
Yes.
That night, Robert William Fisher died.
Yep.
And someone else was born.
And maybe he even likes that they think, some people think he committed suicide, because that maybe even helps him a little bit.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Wow. This has been an insane episode. We appreciate you guys listening. This has been actually probably my favorite episode so far.
Cool.
Because it was very entertaining.
I sticking obviously to what we do. I try to find things that I try to find a different range, and You know, when I think about justice, I think about victims and I think about the family. And obviously, there's just no justice in this case.
Oh, this is a huge gap in justice. There will never be, I'll quote me, there will never be justice for this. I will
quote you because next week they're gonna find him.
If they find him next week and it's because of that,
you're buying me dinner.
It's because of that. If it's because of that quote, I threw it into the atmosphere. I am so happy. So we appreciate you guys listening. It has been a gap in justice. Sean and Lindsay, the coolest people on the internet. So we love you guys. Do you have any last words, Linz?
Nope.
All right, cool. Awesome. Yep. She's super entertaining always. Like I said, love you guys. Peace out. Bye.